The Ace of Cups in the Oak Tarot of Love and Romance depicts a single glowing golden cup overflowing with luminous water, while a man with a radiant heart searches the horizon and a woman stands peacefully by the distant ocean. This specific imagery marks a departure from the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith depiction, which often features a solitary hand extending from a cloud. By introducing two human figures and a young oak sapling, Bandel shifts the focus from a purely divine or abstract emotional gift to the lived, grounded experience of emotional readiness between two people. It is a deliberate move away from the Holy Grail concept we see in traditional decks where the cup is this external object of worship. In Bandel's Oak Matrix, the emphasis is on the internal state of the individual. That glowing cup isn't just an offer from the universe, it represents your own emotional capacity. When we look at the man in the card, he has a radiant heart and eyes soft with longing. He isn't just waiting, he is actively searching the horizon with a sense of deep readiness. This aligns with what social psychologists like Christopher Agnew at Purdue University call commitment readiness, that subjective sense that the time is right to be in a relationship. That readiness seems to be the bridge between being single and being successfully coupled. But there is a tension there. The man is searching, yet the woman is already there in the distance, appearing peaceful and open. It raises the question of whether this card is about the search itself, or the quiet realization that the connection is already possible if one is simply open enough to see it. Bandel's description mentions that emotional connection starts with being open and trusting that the right person will appear, but that's a difficult state to maintain when you've been hurt before. Exactly. Trust isn't just a switch you flip. In the context of the Oak Tarot, the young oak sapling sprouting next to the cup is vital. It represents the start of a growth process that requires a strong foundation. Traditionally, the Ace of Cups is about the initial flutter or the seed of a feeling, but here, the oak suggests that even these early overflowing emotions need to be anchored in reality. If you look at Bandel's broader work, like his Organic Gnosticism, he talks about duality as a loving embrace of opposites rather than a conflict. The Ace of Cups is the moment those opposites, the longing and the readiness, begin to harmonize. I'm struck by the gendered experiences Bandel describes for this card. For the male experience, he notes a heart opening and a quiet readiness to give and receive love. For the female experience, he describes a warm, hopeful longing and the sense of being ready for meaningful connection. It feels a bit like a dance of pursuit and reception. However, could this also be interpreted as a more internal integration of the masculine and feminine within ourselves? The man and woman aren't touching. They're part of the same landscape, almost like two aspects of the same soul finally coming into alignment. That's a profound way to look at it. The Oak Tarot often focuses on the soulmate cycle, which isn't just about finding another person, but about integrating those internal energies. The man's search is outward, but his heart is what's radiant. The light comes from within him. The woman's peace by the ocean suggests a mastery of the emotional realm, as water is the traditional element of the suit of cups. She isn't searching, she is simply being in a state of openness. In psychological terms, this mirrors the concept of emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage one's own emotions before trying to merge them with another's. But the cup is overflowing. Doesn't that imply a lack of control? In some readings, an overflowing cup suggests emotional overwhelm or a loss of boundaries. If the water is spilling out, are we giving too much? Are we losing ourselves in the longing before the relationship even begins? Traditional interpretations, like those from Biddy Tarot, often view this overflow as pure abundance, but there is always a risk that a flood can be just as destructive as a drought if there isn't a container. That's where the golden cup comes in. It is the vessel, the structure. In Bandel's system, the structure is often represented by the sword suit, the mental clarity, but even here in the suit of cups, the cup itself provides the limit. The water is luminous, which suggests it's not just raw, messy emotion, it's enlightened emotion. It's the yes to the entire experience of being alive. Research published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships suggests that people who report higher readiness are actually more likely to use constructive relationship maintenance strategies later on. So that overflow isn't just waste, it's the excess energy needed to build something new. The color palette, Warm golds, soft teals, and gentle pinks really reinforces that sense of safety and optimism. It feels very different from the sharp silvers and blacks we see in the sword suit of the same deck. It's an invitation to be vulnerable. But vulnerability is terrifying. To stand like the woman by the ocean, peaceful and open, means you aren't wearing armor, you're exposed. How does the card account for the fear that usually accompanies new love? The fear is acknowledged through the longing in the man's eyes. Longing is inherently a state of not yet having. It is a vulnerable state because it admits a need. But Bandel emphasizes that this longing is hopeful. It isn't desperate. The difference lies in the oak sapling. A sapling doesn't worry about whether it will become a tree. It just follows its nature. The Ace of Cups suggests that if you are in a state of genuine emotional readiness, the connection isn't something you have to force or hunt down. It's something you grow into. I want to push back on the idea of trusting that the right person will appear. That sounds a bit like manifestation or passive waiting. If the man is searching the horizon, he's looking for something specific. If he doesn't find it, does the cup just keep overflowing until it's empty? There's a potential for disappointment here if the hopeful longing doesn't meet a real-world partner. How does a seeker distinguish between healthy readiness and just being in love with love? That is the critical distinction. Being in love with love is often a way to avoid the actual work of relating to a real, flawed human being. But the Ace of Cups in the Oak Tarot specifically places the woman in the distance. She is a real figure in the landscape, not a dream. The readiness Bandel talks about is a deep readiness to give and receive real love. The real is the operative word. Real love requires the grounding of the oak. It's not just the flutter of the ace, it's the preparation for the work of the 2, the 3, and eventually the 10 of the suit. It's the decision to stop hiding and start standing in your own truth, as Bandel discusses in his podcasts on the Suit of Swords. So the ace is the prerequisite. You can't get to the deeper stages of the soulmate cycle if the cup isn't full first. You can't pour from an empty vessel. This reminds me of the Michelangelo phenomenon in psychology, where partners help sculpt each other into their ideal selves. But to be sculpted, you first have to be present and available. You have to be the open woman or the ready man. If you are closed off or armored, the sculpting can't happen. And the luminosity of the water suggests that this readiness is a form of self-illumination. You aren't looking for someone to complete you. You are so full of your own emotional life that it is naturally spilling over, and you are looking for somewhere for that abundance to go. It's a shift from, I need you to fill me up, to, I am so full I need to share this with you. That is a much healthier starting point for any romance. It moves the relationship from a transaction to a shared expansion. It's interesting that the oak sapling is specifically a strong young sapling. Even at its earliest stage, it has strength. This suggests that emotional vulnerability isn't weakness. In fact, it might be the strongest thing we can offer. It takes a lot of internal strength to keep your eyes soft with longing instead of hardening them with cynicism after a breakup. The Ace of Cups is really a card of courage, the courage to try again, to hope again. Exactly. It's the raw, energetic seed, as some evolutionary tarot traditions describe the aces. It doesn't have the history of the later cards yet. It's the moment the soul says yes to feeling again. For anyone who has been through the swords of a relationship, the arguments, the boundaries, the cold realizations, coming back to the Ace of Cups is like a homecoming. It's a reminder that the capacity for love hasn't been destroyed, it's just been waiting for the next season of growth. We often think of romance as something that happens to us, but this card suggests it's a state we cultivate within ourselves first. The man's heart is radiant before he even reaches the woman. The cup is overflowing before the connection is finalized. It's a proactive emotional state. If you were to draw this card in a reading, it wouldn't just be saying, you'll meet someone next Tuesday. It would be asking, are you actually ready to be seen? Is your heart radiant, or are you still hiding it? And that being seen is a two-way street. The woman is peaceful and open. She isn't performing. She isn't trying to attract the man. She is simply present in her own peacefulness by the ocean. There's a certain magnetism in that. When we are truly emotionally ready, we don't have to chase. We radiate, and that radiance acts as a beacon. It's the searching the horizon paired with trusting the right person will appear.
It's the balance of intention and surrender.
The transition from the ace to the two of cups in this deck, where the man and woman actually meet, must be significant. But the ace is that vital pre-moment. It's the deep breath before the dive. It's a beautiful, hopeful image, especially for those who feel like their emotional well has run dry. The oak sapling reminds us that as long as there is a seed, there's the potential for a whole forest.
It really is a card of renewal. Whether you're starting a new relationship or trying to find a fresh start within a long-term one, the Ace of Cups asks you to return to that initial state of luminous, overflowing readiness. It's about letting the current flow, as Bandel says, and remembering that the grove is patient. The love you are looking for is already reflecting in the water of your own cup.
It's a powerful perspective on how we approach our own hearts. If this deep dive into the Ace of Cups changed how you think about your own emotional readiness, pass this episode along to a friend who might be searching their own horizon.